Hey there everyone, what's up? I am back today with another impressions video, and today we are talking about Natural Doctrine. And this is Natural Doctrine on the PS4. I didn't play it on the PS4 that much actually. This is a pack, it came in Japan. It was a PS4 slash Vita pack, like a cross-buy pack essentially. And the cross-buy pack was cheaper than buying it only for the PS4 or only for the Vita, so well, I got both. But I played it about 25% on the PS4 and about 75% on the Vita. So I'll get into why that is actually, but yeah, let's talk about Natural Doctrine for a bit here. So yeah, what is it? First of all, what is Natural Doctrine? I think a lot of people aren't really sure what's going on with Natural Doctrine. It looks like a ridiculously generic strategy RPG. It's not that. I remember when I first saw it, I kind of thought like it looks kind of like a, you know, poorly put together like generic strategy RPG, but you know, sorry, I tend to buy those kind of things. So it was a game that I was always interested in from the beginning, but I didn't have like super high hopes for it. So I didn't buy it right when it came out. I've been putting it off for a little while, and now it's like relatively cheap. So I figured, well, I'll just pick it up. And I picked it up and I started playing it, and I realized right away that my initial thoughts about the game were completely incorrect. I mean, it doesn't look great. That wasn't incorrect. So I guess I'll start with that. Just what does the game look like on the PS4? I don't know if this is. I know this is coming out in English, but I don't know if it's coming on the PS4 or just on the Vita or PS3 or whatever. But it's awful looking on the PS4. It's not like very good looking at all. The kind of menu environments, there's like look really sparse, and sometimes the textures look not that great, and the character models don't look that great. This is on the PS4. I'm like, I have like a, I don't know, 40-inch TV or something, and I'm playing, on the PS4, and when I'm playing it, I think, wow, this really doesn't look that good. It reminds me of, I mean, it's not a high budget game, so I'm not like down on it for the graphics, but it really, like, if you're playing on the PS4, you're gonna be like, wow, this kind of doesn't look that good. And then what happened was I decided like, well, I'll play it on the Vita. I'll try it out on the Vita and see what it looks like. And on the Vita, all of the decisions that I thought like looked bad on the PS4 actually make sense. The kind of sparse area that you're looking at on the screen doesn't look that bad on the Vita. It looks like it's made for that almost. And you can't really do much with the the character models and all that. They don't look all that great, but it's much more serviceable on the Vita. I felt like when I was playing it, I felt like this looks a lot better when I'm playing it on the Vita than when I'm playing it on my TV. So if you're really worried about like the graphics for it, play it on the Vita because it looks better, even though it's probably essentially the same. But yeah, beyond that, the environments aren't even that great either. They're I mean, like I said, everything about the game looks generic. So when you're playing it, you kind of, you'll start to look at it, and I mean, I know people are going to do this. When they're looking up this game, they're going to look up screenshots, and they're going to be like, this game looks like generic, I'm going to not buy it. And that would be kind of a mistake, because it's not really, I mean, beyond the looks, it's not really a generic RPG at all. It does a lot of things that are really, really good. So, yeah, we'll talk about that point, I think, because first of all, like even on the box, like here it's saying like this is a strategy RPG, and it's got like these kind of generic fantasy anime like characters, but when you start playing it, they do some things that you don't expect. Like they straight up kill one of those generic anime characters that are all over the packaging, and they also you'll also notice right away that this doesn't play like any strategy RPG that you've probably ever played. Um, it's the best way I can explain the gameplay is like it's like a really complex military board game. That's the only way I can explain it because it is kind of grid based, but not really. It's zone based, so like you can have up to 4 characters in a zone, and the enemies can do that too. But then you have to link the characters within the zones, and in loc in I'm blanking on my English here because I'm thinking the Japanese word, but the zone next to the zone you're in, you can also link characters from there. So you get this kind of real, like, deep strategy element where you're trying to link characters to get the best effects and the best damage, and place the characters in different locations so that they'll link together and you can kind of like steal initiative from the enemies. It's really complicated, and it's really deep in terms of battle. So it's the kind of thing where when you're playing it, you have this kind of situation where usually if you make like 1 or 2 mistakes, you're done. You have no chance of winning. So it's maybe a frustrating experience for people who don't like that kind of thing. I can say that right away. If you don't like difficult games, if you think like, you know, every game has to have checkpoints every time you kill an enemy, and you have to be able to save every turn, and you have to be able to, you know, beat every battle on the first try, this is not a game for you. You're almost never going to be able to beat a battle on the first try. You're almost never going to be able to figure out what's going to happen before it happens. In some cases you can, because there's like tells throughout the stage, but in a lot of cases, like, you know, you're kind of working on this strategy, and then all of a sudden they throw a wrench in the works, and you're just like, oh damn, I gotta like really scramble now. And that kind of stuff happens in this game. So it actually, when I was playing it, the actual gameplay of the game for me is like golden. I loved it. I thought it was really great. When I started playing it, it's punishing and it's brutal, and it's the kind of thing where, like, if you're not paying attention, you're just kind of like randomly moving your characters around, or you're not paying attention to like how they link or how you can stop the enemy from gaining initiative, you're never going to get past like the first couple of stages. So it is definitely hardcore in the sense that I think I said this to somebody on Facebook too. I think Crack Lotus, that this is like it's like the Dark Souls of strategy RPGs, in the sense that like it's punishing. It's the kind of thing where you're gonna have to die a bunch of times to figure out what's going on, and then you're gonna have to die a bunch more times to get through the stage, depending on what kind of things get thrown at you and how well prepared you are. So it's the kind of thing where it's brutal, and and I almost wish I played it on easy at some points, where I was it actually defaults to easy, but I always check the options before, so I set it on normal, and I played through on normal, and it was rough. There were times where I'd be stuck on one level for like an entire day or something. Like, it would just be the entire time I played the game for that day was just one stage that I had to like try to figure out a perfect strategy for, so that I could actually survive. And it's rough. I mean, there's some stages where you can go through the first try, you're done, you got it. And sometimes it's almost like dumb luck, and sometimes like you kind of can read the level, so you can figure out what's going on. And it's the kind of thing where this kind of game is right up my alley. I really enjoy how much strategy you have to put into everything. Like, you can almost make no mistakes. Sometimes you can make like one mistake and not get totally destroyed, but you know, you'll get lucky with the hit percentages or whatever. But sometimes, like, one mistake and you're just dead. You're gone. And I'm saying this like not you like your whole party gets wiped, but if you lose even one person, anybody gets killed, it's game over. You don't have an option. You can't just be like, well, I'll revive him after the level or whatever, or I'll just go on without that guy. It doesn't work that way. You can't do it. If you die, everybody, it's game over. You have to restart. And it's not really like a situation where there's no checkpoints. There are checkpoints in the game, so you can go through half a stage, and then sometimes like some weird twist will happen, and then like you'll get wiped. And then usually there's a checkpoint, so you can kind of start from that point again, so you don't have to redo everything all the time. So it's a little less punishing in that sense. There are some areas where you can kind of grind levels as well. They're not useful in the later game, which is a kind of negative point that I'll get to later, but in the kind of beginning and middle parts of the game, you can kind of get some good experience or weapon upgrades in the kind of optional areas. So they're helpful, but let me get into why it's not helpful later. There are lots of points in the game where you can't really save. You can, but I mean you can't. For example, if you're too low level, you're just never gonna win. You don't have some certain abilities or something, or you're just not doing enough damage. Sometimes you're just not gonna win, and if you've saved over your previous save, you're screwed. You don't have any way to get more points, because some of the stages are connected directly. Like you can't go back to the map and switch out. So, and that actually that only happens like I think 2 or 3 times in the story. But one of the times that happens is the final stage, obviously. And in my case, what happened was I got to the end of the game, the last battle, and I was just not doing damage. Like there was no way for me to do enough damage to win. It wasn't possible. I tried it for like a ton of time, and I just couldn't deal enough damage fast enough because of the way I had spec'd my characters. So what I had to do was like load a previous save from like 3 or 4 battles back, which is, you know, it's a good chunk of time for those battles. But you know, so I'd do that, and I had to grind up a couple of levels. There's a few optional like really hard battles you can do, which are nice. Like there's a kind of undead king battle where you can go and fight him and get some really nice weapons, and that battle was like really helpful in gaining some levels when I had to go back and get kind of. It wasn't really that I was too weak; it was that I didn't have some skills that I needed to get to the end, which were like some more high damage spells instead of defense and kind of buffs that I was using for the most part. You as a pro tip for this, you should probably get some spells in the game that can attack over a large area, because I didn't do that when I was playing, and it kind of screwed me in the end, and I had to go back and grind. But yeah, it's weird because you get to the final. When I got to the final stages, I was playing through and I was thinking like, these are kind of easy. I'm kind of blowing through this. I wonder if the boss is going to be easy too, because that would be disappointing after the game being like the last stage is split up into 3 areas, I think, and you'll go through, and the first 2 where you're just kind of going to the stage is not so bad. It's I got through them both on the first try. Actually, there's 3, but they're optional. 1 is optional, but I got through all of them on the first try. Like none of them were terribly hard, and then I got to the last battle, and it was just like brutally hard, like way harder than the way there. So it was kind of like, good God. And it's another downside to that last battle is it's almost like a gimmick battle, in the sense that you have to just be like a Death Reaver in that one. Like you have to kill everything as fast as you can, and if you are playing a more defensive strategy, it's not going to work. You just get overwhelmed. So that was like kind of how I had been going through the game as a more defensive strategy player, and it kind of screwed me only on the last battle, which was kind of a, a downside. And I had to, I had to go back and grind and respec. So yeah, that was Natural Doctrine here. I'm trying to think of what else there is. There are 30 stages in the game. That's 30 levels, but they're not exact. Some of them are really quick. I mean, some of them are just like going and talking to somebody and maybe doing an optional battle if you want to, or you don't have to, but you can. So some of those are somewhat optional, but they're all part of the story. And let's see, you've got a bunch of characters in the game, and it's the way they do the characters is pretty cool, because even though none of that, I mean, they're all somewhat generic, you don't get them in normal ways. Like you get characters randomly. It's not random, but you get seemingly, like in the story, you just kind of like suddenly you have more characters, and then suddenly you have less characters, and then suddenly you have way more characters than you could even possibly need. And there's a reason for that, because when you get to the final battle, you can continue when people die, and when that happens, they die forever. So it's the kind of thing where you probably need more than you have at that point. So it's the kind of thing where this game, I don't know what I would say about it. I'll bet you a lot of money that the reviews are going to be awful. It's one of those kind of games that it's not what you think it is. It's not what you expect it to be, and if you go into it expecting one thing and you get something that's totally different, it tends to like make people unhappy with it. And I can imagine that the reviews are going to be really low, because it's painfully difficult at points, and it's also got, it doesn't look good. It's not like a beautiful looking game. So it's the kind of thing where I think your kind of mainstream reviewers are going to bash it. It's going to get like really low ratings. But if you like difficult kind of strategy focused games, it's going to be a game that you're going to really enjoy. Because overall I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was really fun. Like, I couldn't put it down. I was playing it all the time. I was playing it on my lunch break at work. I was playing it when I got home from work. I was playing it all weekend. It was the kind of thing where like I just couldn't get away from it, because the system for the battle and the strategy elements of it are so strongly addicting to me. Like, it's almost like the perfect kind of game for me in this kind of strategy element, because it does have RPG elements, but it also has like a really deep strategy system. So if that sounds good to you, Natural Doctrine is a game you should buy, despite it not being like an incredibly interesting in the RPG section. Like, the story isn't that great and it doesn't look great, and it's the kind of thing where, like, if you like strategy, this is a game for you. If you don't, you're not going to like it. And if you like normal strategy RPGs and you're expecting another one of those, you're not going to like Natural Doctrine, because it doesn't play anything like a normal strategy RPG. So yeah, that's about it for Natural Doctrine. I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm looking at the box here, but there is an online element, but there's nobody online when I was playing, so I didn't get to really try it. Maybe there'll be more people online when it goes on sale in the US. I'll give it a shot then. But until then, I don't have really any experience with it. So if you're like a trophy hunter or something, this is a terrible game for trophies, because a lot of them are online. But also because it's the time you have to put in to get trophies is not worth it if you're just like in it for trophies. But I doubt anybody is. Anyway, that's about it for Natural Doctrine. Like I said, if you like strategy games, get it. If you like nice looking games with a deep story, this isn't for you. And it's gonna get. I'm gonna go on record and say my prediction is that it's gonna get like 5s and 6s for reviews. So I couldn't imagine it getting more for people who aren't really into this kind of thing. But for me, gameplay-wise, spectacular. I loved this game. How it looks is awful, though. So beyond that, yeah, that's it. Natural Doctrine. Pick it up if it sounds interesting. So, yeah, I will catch you guys next time.